Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Just a Recording Podcast, where we have conversations with individuals that think differently and challenge the status quo with success and valuable lessons. Thank you so much for joining us this week with a fire episode. Before I tell you about this week's guest, I want to talk to you about our podcast sponsor. TheRootBrands.com is such an amazing product. I have been taking this product for the past couple of weeks and I am blown away by the results, and you will be too. Just keep in mind, this is an invite-only product and you can only purchase the two products, Clean Slate and Zero In, by an invite, and I have a link in my bio on Instagram for you to purchase those products. You know, those two products I've talked to you extensively about. The one that I'm really excited about is Zero In, which is a nootropic that helps really clear out brain fog and get you super focused. When you take it on an empty stomach, it hits you in about 10 to 15 minutes. And the other product is Clean Slate, which really just uses volcanic ash and seawater to cleanse the body and bring it back to its temple stasis. This product will change your life. Let's get into this week's episode. It's with my main man who you are just going to enjoy. We talk a little bit about plant-based medicine. We talk a little bit about his journey just through the ego and through his self, and just kind of being two white dudes, after George Floyd's death. This happened a couple days before we recorded this episode, and we start out just kind of really talking a little bit about how we can make change and what we can do. So I think you're going to really enjoy this episode. Appreciate you tuning in, guys. Peace. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Just a Recording Podcast. I am your host, Patrick Moen, and I am excited to bring a gentleman that I have known for quite some time when I used to live out in LA. Somebody that has really just been walking the path of his own spiritual journey, really just taking the time and doing the work. And this is somebody that I looked up to and continue to look up to as I follow him in his journey through social media. I've had the luxury of being able to attend many of his yoga classes. We used to work out together in the CrossFit gym. It's just somebody that I think really has such an amazing take, not only as he unfolds and peels back the layers of the onion, but also just in life. I highly suggest following this gentleman. The way that he just speaks, it just captivates your full attention and helps you understand really admirable ways that you can do the work yourself. And I think he's a good representation of somebody that, has had some ups and downs in his life and, really learned those valuable lessons through those up and downs. And he's also had some plant medicine journeys, and something that I've really looked up to, and him and I have talked several about. So I figured I'd bring him on and we can talk a little bit about everything. But I think, well, first, let me introduce you. What's up, Dante?
Well, first of all, it makes sense, but I didn't realize how good your voice is for this type of platform. Whatever you want to accomplish here, you're going to accomplish, the Howard Stern or Joe Rogan or whatever. That voice is perfect. Second of all, thank you so much. That you made my eyes water. That's crazy. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, nothing but love. I think that you are, one of the things is I was just watching your story, and you've been really pushing the envelope on George Floyd and everything that's kind of happened in, the African-American community, with police brutality. And I think really starting that conversation, it's a tough conversation for two white guys to have. And even just talking about it on your platform, not just you, but I think white people in general, we have to start this conversation. And I think I meant every word that I said. You really push those envelopes. You really kind of make people think about what the work truly is. Every day you're posting, little glyphs of what you're reading and just messages that you're taking away. The journaling, the yoga journey that you've been on. And I think I knew you from Brick CrossFit when we first met, and to say that you are not the same person that you were then. You are a completely different person, and not to say that you were a bad person then or a good person, but you have evolved and you have changed and you have ascended into this newer, higher level of thinking. And, I think I'd like to say that I'm also on the path as well of just trying to better myself to become a better human. And so that's why I look up to you so much. And I think it's really admirable what you've done. And that's what I kind of want to peel back the layers and talk about today, because I think a lot of people are lost on really how to get there and what to do. But, you've had several instances of just really, I mean, how many ayahuasca journeys have you done?
22 so far.
Oh my God. I thought you were in like 8, 9, or 10.
No, and like, just for, yes, it's like, it is a handful of ceremonies, but for context, like I know people that have sat for hundreds of times, so it's like,
Right.
22 is not crazy, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's definitely something that I'd like to unpack. So let's talk a little bit about, we did mention like two dudes talking about, the Black Lives Matters movement and, everything that's going on with police brutality. And what's your take on everything that's kind of going on right now? Because you're basically calling your friends and your followers out on social, like, show the fuck up. Like, don't post or do any, like, sign the petition, call your politicians, like, demand justice.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope because from my perspective, I don't think that like being aggressive is like the best approach ever. Like, it's just not that effective, and but not always, at least. But at the end of the day, I don't know what to do. And
Right.
and one thing that I do well, the one thing that I can like pat myself on the back for, is that when I don't know what to do, I go to people that do.
Right.
So I just like, I went on and walked my dog and like made some phone calls to my Black friends. I even reached out to Mike Mensa, who's a mutual friend of ours, and
Yeah.
it's like, dude, like, what can I do? And the one thing is like spreading awareness through social media and the voice. And I'm like, well, that's like a joke. Like, all I have to do is hit a button and that goes up. Like, what else can I do? And then, then the petition comes out. Another, it was actually Cleveland Berto's girlfriend who sent that to me. So it is cool, man. Like, as much as people love to bash social media, I don't think people realize like the reason why this whole thing is happening is because of social media for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even like Will Smith said, like, racism has always been happening. It's just being filmed now. But, I think it's, I'm in an all men's group here in North Carolina that was started by this community called Raleigh Raw. And, it's the owner is Egyptian. And so, just this past Sunday, literally before all this unfolded, we were having these conversations, and Sharif, the CEO, the founder of this community called Raleigh U, is talking about how difficult not only it is for brown and Black people, but he's like, man, white people have it hard too. Like, they don't know how to appropriately talk about this conversation. Like, we don't know how to, but we have to be the ones that start the conversation. We have to be the ones that push the envelope, because it's not up to the people that are being oppressed. It's not up to the people that are having all these, run-ins with police and police brutality. Like, it's up to us. We're the one that created the system, and we're the ones that are going to have to break it and rebuild it.
Well said. And that ties in right to the last conversation I had yesterday. The man that actually taught me how to meditate, my brother, my Black brother, Jeremy, I always reach out to him, especially in these type of situations, because I'm coming from a white privilege perspective. So I'm like, yo, give me advice here. And what he said was yesterday, he's like, nothing's ever going to change until white people do something about it. And then that's like, that just helps stoke the fire. But it's just like, this is, the reality is like, like, don't take this the wrong way, but I even have like these thoughts where I'm like, I don't even care if you're racist. Like, it's still so stupid to not realize that this is going to get worse and worse and worse with riots and all that stuff. Like no matter what your justification is, I feel there's like going to be another layer of a reason to be intelligent about this, like I unfortunately was having a conversation with one of my right wing friends yesterday, and it just like, it was so frustrating, but at the same time I was just staying poised and trying to plant some seeds. And yeah, it's like there's no justification for why action shouldn't be, even if you are racist. It's like,
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So let's talk a little bit. Thanks for talking about that with me. I know I kind of threw you a curveball of just kind of going down that rabbit hole, but it literally is unfolding as we're talking. And I think it's definitely something that needs to be talked about, especially to white privileged dudes that don't need to fear walking down the street or, having a run-in with police. I don't know what that's like. So I think having that conversation with not only white, but also black friends of mine is just like, how does that make you feel? Like, what do you think about when you're getting pulled over? Because I'm just like, fuck, I'm getting a ticket. Like, they're like, I might die. And it's scary. So let's talk about our time, like when you used to work out at Brick and we first started getting to know one another. It seems like there was a major shift that happened shortly after that where you really started, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with your yoga journey, is you really started working out in terms of just like a flow. But I mean, I remember when we used to battle kind of head to head at that 10 o'clock class when we'd work out. And then sometimes I'd see you boxing in that middle room. And I was like, damn, he's a badass motherfucker, like hitting the gloves and everything. And then all of a sudden you stopped showing up. And then you started posting that you were, doing classes and stuff. And I think you went to like a yoga school, right? You trained for some yoga. So tell me a little about some of that training that you did.
Yeah, so basically it does tie into the ayahuasca. I love CrossFit, still love CrossFit. I wish I had the funds to do all the things, right? Because yoga, I fortunately get to do for free. I have a jiu-jitsu membership, and if I had the funds, then I would also have a CrossFit membership because I love to juggle the different arts. But to answer your question, it was after my last relationship at the time, and I just became hyper aware of this pattern that I had with women. And then my mother had a brain tumor, so I was sitting in the hospital with her and just kind of reflecting on everything. And I went into the following year and was like, I want new problems. I want new problems, and I'm so tired of dealing with the same bullshit over and over again. So I kind of went into that year with this motto where I was like, I will say yes to every new opportunity that comes my way, except for dick, is like the joke that I had about it. I just, and then, my best friend was like, so I've known for over 10 years, was like, hey, do you want to go to ayahuasca? And I was like, well, it's, in line with my motto. So here we go.
Yeah.
And then I was, in the journey, you're sitting down for a long time. And that was the first time I've sat, on basically a meditation cushion for that long. And I was like, man, this is bullshit to be, I think I was 27, 28 at the time. And like for my hips to hurt this bad. And he's like, come try yoga. And then it just, the rest was history with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, when you and the girl that you were dating at Brick and you guys separated. And that's kind of when I stopped seeing you. You brought up your mother. Your mother, I thought it was earlier that it had happened, but I didn't know it was around then. I'm so sorry. So she had a brain tumor and then she ended up passing away. Isn't that correct?
No. So what you're probably thinking of is she had breast cancer years before that. And then she got a brain tumor, and then there was successful surgeries on both.
So, nice. Great. Yeah. Okay. And so the journey through yoga and ayahuasca kind of went hand in hand. So you started doing yoga after that first ayahuasca journey?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was that first journey like? And you did it in California, right?
Yeah. I'm super lucky. There's this shaman that grows it in Hawaii, and he comes to California once or twice a year. And it's pretty cool that the original seed for his massive farm is from Terrence McKenna. A lot of people know him. He's like kind of like the godfather of psychedelics,
Yeah.
kind of like what I don't know, what Bruce Lee is the martial arts,
Uh-huh.
and so my first journey was the first day, and this is common, I've realized in my experience. The first day you just kind of have your intentions on what you want it to be, and for the most part you always do 2 days, or you should do 2 days, because we kind of say it's like the first day is kind of like the primer and the second day is where the magic happens. Not always, but that's kind of often. So you take the medicine and you go and sit and meditate for a while, and the shaman sings his the Icaros, and and I just remember the first night hating it, being like, it was very similar to an LSD trip, or you know, with a lot of like you know, colors and lights and all that stuff. And I just remember waking up the next day like, this is not what I came here for. Like, I came here to see this vision. And I talked to some of the elders, and like I said, I'm pretty good at taking advice, and they said you have to surrender what you want and just let it be what it's going to be sometimes. And so I did that. I went into the next ceremony and I was like, you know, I surrender, like whatever you want it to be. And then she just showed me this picture of a tiger, and in the picture the eyes were cut out, and I was like, why are the eyes cut out? And she's like, are you ready to see now? And then I was like, yeah, you creative bitch. And she like pulled me into the jungle and allowed me to like shape shift into different cats, and like, you know, played and all that. And then all of a sudden, boom, everything goes, I go blind. And not like blind as in black, but blind as in all I could see is white. So like, you know, picture closing your eyes but seeing white. And then I just remembered that I was like, there's a white notebook next to me. Like, I brought a white notebook with me. So I picked it up, and I literally couldn't see. And I picked it up and I picked the pen in my hand and started writing. And what I wrote was, if you do not feel your way through your path like the blind, well, then you are blind. What you think is comfortable just because it's familiar is a bed of rocks. So ask yourself, why are you laying on a bed of rocks when there's a throne with your name on it? And so that was the big realization. Like, you know, I don't need to see my vision. My path is kind of one where I got to feel it out.
Yeah. How did that so you did two ceremonies, right? On that first.
Yeah.
Coming back obviously to civilization. What was that like? You know, like telling people about your experience. Like, I'm sure a lot of people called you crazy.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, and I work with my my original ex-girlfriend, and she, you know, she's like kind of hardcore Christian, and it's always fun, you know, because I appreciate her so much. She's one of my greatest teachers, and it's always fun to like tell her about these things, and for just to watch her be like, you need to stop doing drugs.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, just coming back, it was, you know, like, you know, that first time, it's like this big veil is pulled, you know, is the rugs pulled out from under you, you know. And so I just remember I came home, I was staying with a friend at the time, and I just remember coming home to her, and then she was the first person that I saw. And I remember, like, I come in, and as soon as I see her, I hug her and I start bawling. Like, you know, I wish that, you know, I was like that these days, but now it's way more casual. But back then, because it's such a dramatic shift, you know, that it was just, I was so emotional and just like, I love the world and like, I love people and everything's great. But
yeah,
that's what it was like.
Do you feel like it wore off after a little bit? Like after you had this tremendous realization and then it kind of like slowly just dies off and you kind of forget? Or is it just really opening up different parts of your mind that are now wired a little bit differently?
I think it created I think it created a paradigm shift. And
right.
I think that we're ultimately creatures of whatever it is we're practicing. And so it's like, you can take a shower and get clean, but then are you just going to go roll around in the mud? So does it wear off? Yes and no. Like, yes, it does. But depending on your daily practice of self-reflection, you know, that's kind of the timeline.
Yeah. And so after that first ceremony, you really started to dive into self-realization, meditation, and really just understanding the self, the ego, the spirit. And tell me about how you really got involved in identifying how to appropriately do that. 'Cause that's not easy work. You know, I've been studying in a spiritual class, A Course in Miracles, which is an intense book to study. Yeah. And it's not easy work. It's fucking tough. And there's a lot of times where you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just doing things that I think is right. And then you're like walking the path and you have no idea where you're going. And you're just like, what am I doing? Like, is this right? Like, am I doing something wrong? Like, give me like guides, like show me a way, like give me a sign. Let me know that I'm on the path of pure consciousness of like where I'm supposed to be, you know, and then it's like, let go, like just simply be, like, know that no matter where you are, you're on your path no matter what.
For sure. Well said. Three things come to mind. Um, you like, you know, what you're speaking of is like being in the fog, right? And it's very hard to see like where you're going in the fog. And so like I'm on the outside. Like I actually had a friend over last night talking about that. She's in the fog, and I'm just like, look, I'm not being dismissive of what you're going through in your process. I'm just on the outside right now, and so it's easy for me to have clarity. And that's like the second point, is like clarity of it all, right? I think that when you have those thoughts and all that stuff, it's kind of the indicator that you're in the right place, because you've reached your boundary and you're now in new territory. You know, if you were to go to York for the first time and you're walking around, like, of course you're going to be like, fuck, I don't know where to go and this and that. And if you can remember that while in the fog, like, hey, this is actually a good thing. And if you could start to get comfortable with that uncomfortable, then the journey becomes a little bit less turbulent, but still very difficult. And then the third thing is, that's what Jack Kornfield, I think, what he labeled a spiritual journey so well. He said a spiritual journey is you addressing your fears and your worries and your limitations and all of that. That's what a spiritual journey is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think really identifying there is no right path, right? Like just do the work, do the meditation, sit with yourself. When you feel frustrated, when you get triggered, like don't just dismiss it or try and run away from it. Like sit in it and really try and feel through, why am I triggering this way? Or why is this affecting me? Or why do I have these feelings of self-doubt? Because everybody has them, you know, no matter who you are, where you are in your practice, everybody has moments of like, what's going on? Like, what am I doing? Where am I going? You know? And I think it's the ones that do the work are easy to snap back much, much faster and basically control what the mind is saying or telling you. And so that you can really control what it is that you want it to say. I think that's the most important thing that you have to do when you are in the fog and, you know, you're not really seeing where the path is.
Yeah.
So what do you think, continued you on that journey? Like, obviously it's kind of like the golden nugget being dangled in front of your face. Like you continue wanting to go deeper and deeper. And I think it's just like this sense of like this spiritual enlightenment that we are all searching for. What's kind of been your golden chariot of like trying to really figure out like what's next, or why do I want to keep going down this rabbit hole? Because it's Alice in Wonderland. It's a deep rabbit hole.
Dude, what a book. What a book. I cannot believe he wrote that. And I think he wrote it in the 1800s, which to me is even more insane. But
right.
You know, I'm a big fan of like darker metaphors, and the truth is I'm a junkie, you know, and I just replaced my highs from these you know, it's like you can pop a Percocet or even get addicted to Percocets, and you're going to like have that small window of a high, like a couple hours, but then like you're going to really suffer for the rest of the day or weeks or whatever. And you're going to fuck up relationships and friendships and all that stuff. Or you can put in work and then like you're going to receive the benefits later, but then that high is going to last longer. So it's just like, what do you want? Do you want it on the front end or do you want it on the back end? And so for me, I just realized that these highs are more sustainable, more efficient, and all of that. It's just, yeah. I'm just chasing highs at the end of the day.
Yeah. And you used to change it or chase it, excuse me, from exoteric level, right? Like you used to do drugs and to try and reach that high, that quick high, until you really started on this path and you kind of stopped drinking and stopped doing drugs, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially back then, like I thought that that was the only way to feel that, you know, it was like, I'm angry and this is like the way that it, you know, there was never a thought that I had something to do with my anger. You know, it's like, I'm angry and I don't want to feel this way. So let me pop this pill. And it was, you know, it was that way for a long time. And
Yeah.
I could just say that, you know, anybody that's dealing with addiction, one thing that I could say for sure is that it is a lot easier on this side of the fence. Like the drug addiction thing is like, as much as you're like, yeah, it's a rabbit hole and all that stuff, and I completely agree, that shit is way harder.
Right.
It's way harder.
So how do you think your spiritual practice helped you? Because you have had some heavy run-ins with, you know, some medical issues in the last couple of years. I think last year was a couple kidney stones that you got, you know, destroyed with, and how has that helped you? Because I think that in itself, I mean, you kind of documented your journey of like going to the hospital and like having to like sit for hours on hours of just this excruciating pain. I'm sure that wasn't an easy feat to take on.
Yes and no. You know, there's no there's no better practice of presence than pain. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
you're not what's the saying? The saying is, if your stomach is empty, you only have one problem, but if your stomach is full, you have 100 problems. And it's like, yeah, I'm not aware of time and space when I'm dealing with that level of pain.
Right.
But yeah, I documented it because I found it so interesting that I've had kidney stones in my younger days, and it was so dramatic back then, you know, like, oh my God, like fix me, you know, like I just remember literally being on my hands and knees and just pounding the floor, and then they put me in the bed, and I grabbed the curtain and I literally pulled it off the rack and, like, you know, screaming like, give me something. And then I was literally teaching a yoga class when the kidney stone started acting up, and I just like went down to a knee halfway through the class, and I was just like, "All right, I didn't realize it was kidney stones at first because the pain kind of builds up, but I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, like what is that? And then I taught the rest of the class, and then as soon as class ended, I crawled in my manager's office, and I was just like, "Oh my God, like I think kidney stones are going on." And so she like went and got me stuff at like CVS, and then it kept getting worse, and then like I really realized like, oh my God, this is kidney stones. And so she walked me to the hospital, and it was like, I just remember like, you know, I almost fainted into a bush on multiple occasions. And I get to the hospital, and then the nurses and stuff, and she just basically afterwards just sent me this long message, and she's like, I am telling everybody that I've talked to about how insane it is to see somebody in that level of pain and be so kind to the medical staff. Like apparently I was just like, you know, like, hi, like nice to see you, like, yeah, you know, I'm dealing with these kidney stones right now. And she's like, oh, I'm gonna go get you medicine. And I was just like, oh, thank you so much for your time. Just like, you know, it was interesting, that contrast to witness it.
Right. So yoga is a full-time practice now for you, right? Like teaching it. So you've pretty
It
much
was.
transitioned into just teaching yoga now, or what is it that you're doing now?
It was. So actually, I still bartend because the money, you know, is so good, and things like yoga and stuff, they don't always pay that well, and I haven't put the amount of effort into teaching yoga. I teach the two classes on Monday nights, and I really love the people that show up, and I just enjoy it. It's like kind of like something to look forward to, like almost like a 1 day a week holiday for me. And then
Yeah.
I have some privates and stuff, and yeah, I haven't really like jumped in terms of that yet because you know, the bartending, it gets me this nice apartment and stuff, and
Right. Yeah, I forgot that you bartend. I've actually come in and seen you a couple times. I completely forgot about that. What's it called again?
The bungalow.
The Bungalow.
For
God,
those that,
the places of all places.
yeah, it's pretty thick in douchery. That's the nature of the business when something's popular, but it's not. But that's the crazy thing is, it's not only the money for me; it's the health benefits. Like I have incredible health benefits. So and then it's very easy for me to take off of work. So there's a lot of things still keeping me attached to that place. But yeah, the transition's coming.
Yeah. Um, I mean, and plus you're just like right there off the beach. Like, I mean, the weather is usually always beautiful. And so, but you just seem like, even seeing you working there, like you have just this like calm, like demeanor about you when I mean,
Mm.
for people that don't know about the Bungalow, you're literally like 7 rows deep of just douchebags that are trying to order drinks, and then a bunch of girls, and it's an inside outside bar, but you just walk up and you're not even paying attention to anybody. You're dancing behind the bar, like just having a good old time, and everybody's just trying to grab a drink from you, and you are not even just paying attention.
Sometimes like it's very like I appreciate that, and the truth is it's not always like that, and the reality is probably I seen your face and it was like a breath of fresh air when you were suffocating,
Right.
and so then yeah, you're like, oh my god, Dante's dancing. It's like, I'm dancing because you're here, dude. I wasn't dancing before I didn't see you.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's hilarious. So you think you're going to make the transition to full time doing yoga, or is it just you like the balance between the two?
I like here. I've been thinking a lot about this. So I actually just started this internship, and with my friends who started this amazing company, and I'm kind of right now, feeling it out. But I'm starting to learn coding, and what I'm looking forward to is building this life where the coding can develop. The coding can have the kind of create that financial stability, trade out the bartending for the coding,
Yeah.
and then all the stuff that I want to do in like the spiritual world, I can then not be desperate to make money off of it.
Yeah.
I could just put stuff out there and let my creative freak flag fly.
Yeah. Jesus, you're learning the code. That's pretty intense.
It's everything's easy in the beginning because you're excited.
Right. Yeah. What's the company?
It's called Analog. It's basically a platform to share like books that you're reading and all that stuff, because the reality is like Google and all that data, like it's like the most valuable thing to them, right? And it's like, but wait, that's our information, the things that we care about. So why aren't we sharing that? Because I get it all the time. I get DMs all the time, like, what books are you reading and this and that. And it's like, now there's a platform where you can follow me, and you can follow Bruce Lee, even though he's deceased. They made a profile for him. You can follow Bruce Lee, and then you can see the what books we've both read.
The synchronicities of
The
like both people.
synchronicities.
No
Yeah.
way. That's pretty dope. The same thing to me, which is why I put like on one of my highlighted stories, like all the books that I highly recommend that I've read.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually going to be my next question of, what do you think, what book has impacted you the most? And then what do you highly recommend for people that are really just on the path or just looking for something that can give them an answer that they're searching for?
Oh man, like I can never answer that briefly. To give you some context, I plan on actually shooting a YouTube video for this. But I feel like the most game changing books for me weren't the best books, but they introduced an idea that I never really thought about at the time. So, for example, the first one was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, because it made me realize that like how foolish my anger was.
Yeah.
And then the 5 love languages, because I'm from a full-blooded Italian family, and communication is not, my race's strong suit. Very emotional people. And then I eventually read a book called Getting to Commitment, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend either, because it gets, if you can understand this one, if you can understand what I'm about to say, then like you've read the book. But basically, like, you hear it a lot, like, oh my God, I can't believe this partner turned out to be like that. And it's like, no, the reality is they were giving you signs the whole time, and you just weren't paying attention because you were so focused on what you wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all that. But in terms of the best books, I'm a huge fan of Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
God, that's a good book.
But I think that you need to be sad, you know, like
It is a really sad book.
yeah,
It,
yeah.
it's I had to do it twice because I wanted, like, the first time I was like, afterwards I finished it, I was like, huh, and then the second time I got more out of it, but great book.
hmm the Real Love by Sarah Salzberg was phenomenal. Um, and uh, Before the Ecstasy, the Laundry was absolutely phenomenal by Jack Cornfield. But I also shout out to Course in Miracles. I didn't do that one yet, but I did do Real Love by Marion Williamson, which is
That's a
kind of
great
like
book too.
is like a kind of a condensed version of Course in Miracles. And yeah, I would put it at those three. Those couple: Untethered Soul, Real Love, After the Ecstasy, the Laundry, Return to Love, and
Are you looking at
yeah,
your bookcase right now?
yeah, yeah. The
I
thing is,
love it.
I've also like, you know, I had a rule where I was like, I'm never gonna give out a book because I want to build this massive library. And but lately I've gotten lenient, and of course, all the books that I've lent out, I haven't gotten back. You know, like Mating in Captivity. This is another example where have you read Mating in Captivity?
It's on deck.
Yeah,
I have the hard copy, but I don't like doing hard copies. Just my dyslexia. Like, I can't, like, it takes me a year to read a book, so I do
mhm.
all digital.
Yeah,
Um,
it's same.
but it's definitely on deck. I've heard it's a really good one.
Yeah, same. Again, it's just another one of those things where it got me to think about something that I never thought about before, and then you just kind of experiment with that and see if it works for you. But yeah, yeah. And the last one that I'll throw out there is where was it? Where was it? Damn, I lost it. I'm not sure if it comes to me. I'll mention it. Did you do Awareness? This book is phenomenal for sure, and it's short too, which is great. This was I found out about this through Tim Ferriss.
Really?
Yeah, I think he said that he reads that every year. It's really really good, but you also need to like you need to be in play. You need to be in an open minded place because it's pretty deep.
Right. Dope. Those are some good recommendations.
Yeah, I would say that like you know for your listeners and stuff, if any of my content seems interesting to you and you want to know about reading, like DM me on what it is you're interested in reading about, because that's my question. Anytime someone DMs me, do you have a book recommendation? It's like I'm never going to answer that question. I'll answer like,
Right.
what are you interested in reading about?
Right.
And I can point you into a good direction.
Yeah, a couple good ones. I just finished The Way of Men, so I kind of started
Not the
listening
way
to, like,
not the way
say,
of superior the way of
no,
superior man.
completely different. Read
Okay.
that one last year. The Way of Men. It was more of like a masculinity book of just, men taking back their masculinity. No More Mr. Nice Guy I just finished. The Alchemist is like all-time favorite. The Way of the Superior Man, super favorite. A lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza. Just really any book from Dr. Dispenza is like just
What a trip. What a trip.
yeah, for real. Dope. So as you've really kind of unpacked, the journey that you've been on, where do you think it's taking you?
Oh, what a question. I think it's taking me to a place where I can just be a point of reference for anybody that is looking to head in this direction. There definitely seems to be, sometimes when people ask me questions and like I come up with some like all the information that I've kind of put in here, like I'll just be able to pull it out. Like I have a terrible memory, but sometimes during these conversations, I feel like an instrument and a puppet to something else, and I'm happy to be of service in that way. And so that's really what it's taking me. It's taking me to a life of service, which I think is ultimately the easiest way to be happy.
Yeah, I think that's the highest level of I don't want to say enlightenment, but it's just like it's such a gift. I've had this conversation with several friends here, like kind of what you're just talking about, that energy of like if somebody asks you a question, you can't remember anything, but like something takes over you and like gives you the answer, and it channels through you as a conduit of like this energy source, whatever you want to call it, God, spirit, universe, you know, it comes through you and you're able to really be of service to other individuals and kind of be their guiding light, be their North Star, so that you can help them find their way in whatever journey that they're on. I think that's the ultimate goal, right? Is to be of service to other individuals. It's, you know, right on theme with Morpheus and Neo in the Matrix, right? Like just trying to pull people out as best as you can, and hopefully it's not too late, or hopefully, like, you know, it's like teaching an old dog new tricks. Like you know, it's something that you have to really take for a hardship of just understanding, like there's a lot of people that are wounded or don't know how to appropriately do the work, react in a way, get triggered, get offended, lead with their feelings. You know, a lot of chakra energies aren't completely opened up. And so, you know, that stems from a lot of childhood trauma and wounds. And I think we're all just walking around greeting each other with our wounds. And we need to really make sure that when we're in line and in tune, that we're not judging and we're helping walk those people home.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, have you done a Vipassana yet?
No.
Put that on the top of your list.
What is it?
A Vipassana?
All right. Give me the download of it.
I'll give you the download, and first I'll give you the quick sales pitch. Are you familiar with the book Sapiens, or
I've
heard of
heard of
it?
it. Yes.
So that guy goes on a 2 month, 60-day Vipassana every single year. And what it is to me, it's the, like, no matter what you think the work is, whether it's ayahuasca or whatever, the Vipassana is the express lane way to answers. But, you know, with it being the express lane, it's going to be quite challenging. So the first one that they'll let you do is 10 days, and you go and you spend 10 days in complete silence. No reading, no writing, no talking. You know, you have boundaries. You can, like, kind of walk around this short path, but that's really it. And like the first meal is served at, I think, like, I don't know, I think it was 8 a.m. Then there's a lunch, and then at like 5 p.m. you get tea. And in between those times, you're basically meditating, and you're going to deal with some intense physical pain. But that's the express route to getting to understanding a lot.
Jesus.
A lot. But it's not. But at the same time, like, you know, I feel like I also may have made that sound way more intense. The reality is, yes, there's going to be really, really challenging moments, but there's also going to be some really, really nice moments. And that's where you learn the art of non-attachment.
Right.
The only way you can learn that is by putting yourself through that fire.
Yeah. And what a great thing to talk about right now is we're all kind of coming out of this quarantine. Not to say that we've all been sitting in silence and haven't been able to talk to anybody, but, you know, everyone's complaining about, you know, we're all locked up in our homes, and it's like, you know, you have Netflix, you have, you know, the internet, you have social media, you have any way possible to be able to interact with other humans, and everyone's fighting this so much instead of just letting it go and just not fighting like the actual work. But these last 6 weeks have been just a up and down emotional roller coaster. I think for me, you know, the first couple of weeks I was like, oh, I'm good. I got this. Like, this isn't going to bother me that much. You know, I've done the work. And then no, not even close, you know, and you just kind of really sit in your thoughts and you're just like, what is going on? What am I doing? So I think it's a good segue. How has quarantine and just everything that's kind of happened really affected or interacted with you and your daily practice?
First, I don't know. I just wanted to, did you see that like meme tweet that was like, it was like sit alone with my thoughts, and fuck that, I'm gonna learn how to bake bread from scratch. That's like, yeah. You know, like, yeah, I have developed the practice, and I'm not always efficient at it, but I have developed the practice of like kind of being like, okay, this is happening. Is there anything I could do about it? No. Okay, well, just relax. You know, it's like being stuck in an elevator. Like all the crying and stomping in the world isn't going to fix anything. So just chill and use it as an opportunity to practice.
Right.
You know, like there's a great quote that's like, if you learn to enjoy the wait, you'll never have to wait to enjoy.
Mm.
You know, and that's really like it. Just learning to sit. Like there's a lot of resistance with sitting, you know, in things, and what you resist persists. And so that's, I think, from what I notice, even in myself, that's the biggest challenge that people have with spirituality, is that they think it should be something. Like I hear it all the time. Like I you know, I just have so many thoughts, and like when I sit to meditate, my mind doesn't get quiet. And it's like, why are you so concerned with what you think it should be? Why don't you just sit with your thoughts and let them be loud? Like, just sit with it.
Right.
So how's quarantine been for me? It's been super enlightening for me because, well, I'm super lucky that I've saved a little bit of money. I'm very, very foolish with my money. I eat out a lot, and but I've saved enough that so far I'm not like, you know, I'm not starving, and so I'm lucky there. And I got a puppy right before quarantine, so that was perfect timing.
Oh my God, that's great. I didn't realize it was right before quarantine. What a
Yeah,
cute little freaking puppy too.
yeah, and I could tell you a nice little synchronistic ayahuasca thing with that puppy. That's really interesting. Really quickly, basically, I had a lot of doubts about getting a puppy. Right? It's just like we talked about. It's new territory, so of course the doubts are going to be there. And during ceremony, I asked, you know, Mother Aya, and I was like, should I get a dog? And also, I told my friend that I want a boy. It's my friend that had puppies. His dogs are in love. They cuddle and everything. It's really cute.
Yeah.
And so he didn't intentionally have puppies. He's like, hey, my dogs are pregnant. Do you want one? I'm like, yeah, I want a boy. Fast forward to ayahuasca ceremony. I'm meditating on it. Should I get a dog? And she's like, you're getting a dog, and the dog's name is Aya Kali. And if you don't know, in Hinduism, Kali is the goddess of destruction. And
Okay.
in a good way, she ends cycles. So if, you know, you're struggling with alcoholism, you want like that cycle to be, you know, taken down so you can rebuild a new house. So it's like Aya Kali is her name. And then all of a sudden I get her. And then according to like Hinduism, Kali's an effect in the world. She's just clearing house so that we can build this new world. And I was just like, oh shit, that's fucking crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And it's a boy or it's a girl, right?
The girl, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, that's a girl's name. And she's like, I know. And then the piece that I didn't tell about that story, the middle piece, is that when I went to my friend's house in Arizona, all the dogs rush me. It's like 7 French bulldogs, and then all of them leave but her. And like taking into account what, you know, what spirit told me, and then I'm sitting and I'm just looking at this dog like, oh shit, you're the one I'm taking home.
And she was a puppy, brand new, right?
Brand new, just fucking chose me.
Whoa.
It was all meant to be, and I've learned so much from her. She's one of my greatest teachers for sure.
That's insane. I remember you posted like the goggles on your Instagram story, and I was like, I know what those are for. I'm just waiting to see the dog in your backpack. And then of course, like a couple weeks later, like a week later, she's riding on your back on your motorcycle.
Yeah, I don't have a GoPro, but it would be great to be able to film me riding with her, because she at first wasn't like, not, she was very unsure, you know, what to do. She was like in the backpack, just kind of like just fucking limp. And then now she's like, her head's out, and she's like, you know, I'm so dedicated on giving this dog it's the best dog life possible. I bring her everywhere.
Really?
Everywhere I can go, I bring her. Yeah. And then if I'm going somewhere, then I'm lucky enough to have a great group of friends that love to watch her. So I'll go drop her off.
That's awesome. And how did you get her to wear the goggles? Like you just put it on her in the house and she didn't care?
Well, I was fortunate enough to get, I mean, you know, like, I don't know, I'm not a dog expert, but I was fortunate enough to get her at such a blank slate, right? Like I got her before anybody trained her on anything. So like, even when I originally crate trained her, you know, like she would cry and I would not, you know, it's like, I'm not letting you out if you're crying. So once the crying stopped, I'd let her out and you never hear her cry anymore. So it's like every training her has been very, very easy because I'm just very firm about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
and she just learned so quickly. So with the goggles, she like, you know, she probably fought it for a second and I didn't let her fight it, and then she just gave up, and it's never been a problem since.
That's awesome. And you're teaching her how to skateboard too?
Yeah, that we'll see. We'll see. It's funny, man. She's great.
That's incredible. Well, I want to kind of give you the floor and see kind of where else you want to take this, but I think we've kind of done it and talked a little bit about everything today. Do you have any closing words?
Yeah, the only thing that comes to mind is just that, when if you were to shine a bright light into the corner of your apartment or house and realize that that corner is dirty, then like the only next step to clean it up. And that's like what we're going through, for all the people that are in panic mode. Let me just remind you that this stuff has always been going on, and now we're in the process of cleaning it up. So this is all a good thing. Like, it is a damn shame that another Black man had to die, but like, keep in mind that, use that as motivation, not as defeat. And like, we're cleaning it up. Like, the new world's coming and it's going to be fantastic. So do your part, do your job. Just like any championship team, it's not talked about enough. Like, a championship team, the reason why we're all like, oh my God, this team won the championship, is like, there are people that did their work to get themselves up in their potential. And then they put their ego aside and won for the collective. Like, you can't win a championship without the team coming together. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
It's proven time and time again in sports. Like, the star athlete doesn't always win. So do your part, do your job.
Yeah, man, it's been such a pleasure to chat with you, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to kind of ask you a bunch of questions and pick your brain and talk about all the things. But it's good to see that you're still on the path and the journey. And man, I do not lie to you when I tell you how much I look up to you, and just your daily practices. They really mean a lot to me. And when I need that motivation, like just watching your stories, watching what you post and what you talk about, it really hits me, and it speaks to my soul.
Thank you.
So tell everybody where they can find you if they want to follow you, because I know that they're going to want to. When you're a good-looking dude, and you definitely have some good motivation that you post about. So why don't you tell everyone where they can follow you at?
I appreciate that. It's really just Instagram right now. Dantes Journey is big. The creative side of me is finally starting to come out, and because I've been doing the journaling, and that's really opening up doors in my creative side. And just Dante Journey is big on Instagram, and I'll be doing a YouTube soon. And if you watch anything on my Instagram, find the clip that is about the misconceptions of a positive mindset, because I think, again, that clarity is far more important than confidence.
Yeah, those are those clips where you're in that dark room.
Yeah.
Man, those are so good.
I appreciate that, but
those are so good.
I didn't put a title over it, but the future videos will have titles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're shooting that yourself, or is a buddy shooting that for you?
My buddy is shooting that for me. And like, I don't like to rely on him. So, and he's like, that's what he does for a living. So I actually just ordered my camera this week so I can start doing it. I have the light and I have the backdrop. All I needed was the camera. I got the camera, and now it's time to get to work.
Get it. Awesome, man. Well, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you. I really appreciate your time, and let's keep connecting, man. Let me know next time you're doing your ayahuasca journey.
Hopefully you're there, man.
For sure. It's been calling my name. It's about time I need to just find a shaman and do it.
I got a place for you to stay, so you don't got to pay for room and board. Just get that plane ticket, and let's get crazy.
Let's go. I'm down. All right, brother. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, later.